Hello, are you an avid skier or snowboarder? Are you looking to improve your performance? Hi, my name is Megan Finer, and today I'm going to be talking about wax that you use on the base of your board. Today I'm going to be talking about three major topics: the history of wax and the basis of that, and the types of wax that you can use in different temperatures, as well as some fun facts. So let's get on into it. So Colorado is full of fun and adventure, but of course skiing and snowboarding is one of the major reasons why people come to Colorado. Um, Today I'm going to be talking about some wax. When I got to this thinking about this topic, I was like, what can I use that's applicable to everyone? Well, everyone needs wax on the bottom of their board, or else you can't go anywhere. So we're going to talk about some chemical components of that, and let's get on into it. So the history of wax dates all the way back to Scandinavian ski sports. Back in the day, they used to use what was called pine tar, or aka pitch. Um, it was a highly hydrophobic, insoluble material, and on the microscopic level, they used to study that the board or the bottom base of the ski and the wax would never, only the wax would ever touch the ground, never the base of the board. Um, and they found that the pine tar was really able to ward off any of the snow getting clumped underneath it and allowing it to just move smoothly across the snow. Next, I want to talk about temperature. So there are a lot of waxes out there. Of course, it's all preference based, but there are four major types of waxes. There's a warm temp wax, a cool temp wax, a cold temp wax, and an all temp wax. Before you get to thinking, oh my gosh, what is she talking about? Let me just break it down for you. So warm temp wax is usually used in 30-degree weather or higher. It can be used maybe in like 25-degree or higher too. It's just very dependent upon the wax and what's used in the wax. Next is cool temp wax, which is used in 32 degrees to less than that. And then there's cold temp wax, which is between 25 to 35 degrees. And then you have an all temp wax, which is can basically range from 20 degrees to 40 degrees. And typically when you rent a snowboard or a ski, they're typically going to have that all temp wax on there because it's the highest for performance as far as getting the most out of all weathers, especially because most people that are renting aren't going to be carrying around wax with them, of course, but that's okay. And up in the right hand corner, I just gave like some quick examples of the top three waxes that are currently trending right now. That's Swix, Saucer, and Daikin, and that's if you get interested after this and really want to get into waxing your board yourself. So those are some options for you. So the basics of wax are wax is made up of two main types. There's synthetic wax and microcrystalline wax. However, those are used in conjunction, or they're the same all-inclusive as paraffin waxes. And then, of course, you can add additives to make that glide a lot quicker. So some additives they may add is graphite, Teflon, silicone, fluorocarbons, etc. Fluorocarbons are usually the highest additive within a wax. So paraffin wax is a hydrocarbon. It's created via petroleum by refining. It's where they mix the hydrocarbon and the petroleum together and heat them up super high, breaking them down. And then what's left is this waxy residue, and they are able to scrape that waxy residue off and create paraffin wax. So to the right, I have the molecular symbol of paraffin, and then below I have the molecular breakdown of petroleum. Then we get some additives, of course. Graphite is also a crystalline allotrophic form of carbon. It's a great heat and electricity conductor. So when the board and the snow meet, it creates friction. And when you create friction, it heats up the bottom of the board. So having graphite have such a high melting point um, makes it so that the wax doesn't break down. So you keep moving, instead of like if the wax melted down, you would just stop in your tracks. Another additive is Teflon. So Teflon is a synthetic substance. It's made up of fluorine, and it creates a non-stick surface. So like when you use Spam or anything like that, it's kind of like that on the bottom of the board. It kind of feels oily in a sense, and it allows for a frictionless surface. So then you're really gliding. And lastly, we have fluorocarbon. As I mentioned earlier, fluorocarbon is one of the most used in conjunction with paraffin to create a wax for the bottom of your board. So fluorocarbon is insoluble in water, which makes it a great additive for wax. At the base of the board, it allows the ski to glide effortlessly across. It also uses other additives in conjunction, so it might be the paraffin, fluorocarbon, and the graphite to create this really nice mixture of an insoluble product that makes the board run really fast across the snow. So now that I've highlighted some history and the basis of waxes, I want to talk about the different types of waxes and get into the nitty-gritty that is really important for you as an avid skier or snowboarder. So, as I talked about earlier, there are a million different waxes for a million different temperatures. In that left-hand corner, there is a scale, and this is the scale that they use typically when they're looking to wax the bottom of your board. Even if you go and rent your board, this is what they're going to be looking at, the heat index of what's going to be the weather that day. So every base of wax is a hydrocarbon base, as we talked about, paraffin wax. And it's mixed in conjunction with other elements to create that wax that's the right temperature and that will handle the elements. So the base of a board is made up of graphite and polyethylene. It's usually what makes your base black. Now, of course, that is subjected to people that have custom boards. Of course, they can make the underneath a different color, but typically it's black. So polyethylene is a durable thermoplastic. It has a crystalline structure that is used in a multitude of different plastics. So like your water bottle, a Tupperware, and it's really flexible and durable. And it's made out of ethylene, which is made via uniting two methylene carbons via a double bond. So, as you can see in the right-hand corner, there's the chemical equation for that, as well as the molecular structure to really show you that. So, polyethylene in conjunction with that ethylene is what creates that flex. It allows the board to flex on the bottom, and so when you turn, the board bends. But your base doesn't bend too far that it breaks. So, of course, there's a limitation to how far the polyethylene and the graphite can bend. So, we talked about graphite earlier. I just want to retouch on it. So, graphite is a crystalline allotrophic of carbon. It's a great heat and electricity conductor. So, again, as you get moving, the board creates friction, and the graphite is able to take all that heat along with the other elements and allows it to withstand that basis of friction that's underneath. So next we're going to talk about warm temp waxes. As I talked about earlier, warm temp waxes range usually between 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe even higher depending upon how warm it is and what time of the season you're in. So in order to achieve that warm wax, you have to have a hydrocarbon solution. In addition, with what is called a copper vitriol. Copper vitriol usually looks like a blue substance, but typically in the waxes that you're going to get, you're looking for like a yellow, blue, orange kind of color. And these are able to withstand high heat days. So the snow, usually when it's hot out, is really melty and icky. So usually when you add this type of wax, you're going to add like a thicker layer so it can glide across really well. And it's in addition, in the wax they add water, so it really creates that that connection between the substances and the water. Next we have cool wax. So cool wax is used in the coldest of temperatures, and usually it's used, the paraffin is mixed with tin. It usually looks like a green color, and it's usually used at a higher heat iron, so you really heat it up and then you create a really super thin layer. So you're decomposing the paraffin and the tin down to the smallest sizes that it can be, and create this really super thin layer that allows it to move fast. Because if you have a lot of wax and it's super clumpy, you will stick and it will be a horrible time for you on the hill. So next I want to talk about some fun facts. So wax acts like a lubricant. So like with any lubricant, when it reaches water, and you try to push something across it, and you put it on water, it's going to glide real smooth. Also, a good waxing can last 8 to 10 days, but they typically tell you to do it like every other day. Also, you want to scrape and brush your board to ensure that you don't have any clumpage of wax, because like I said earlier, when you have clumping of wax, it makes you stick. Also, recreation fluorocarbon is what's recommended for a powder day. So make sure you look for those awesome fluorocarbon-based waxes when you want to rip the powder some days. So I have a personal connection with this. I grew up snowboarding. When I was 10, I started racing nationally. And then when I was 15, I was asked to join the Junior Worlds team. I was the youngest girl to ever go. It was quite the experience. I got to meet a bunch of really awesome people, but the truth of the matter is I learned a lot about taking care of my snowboard, and the number one thing before any race was making sure your wax and your edges were perfect and crisp. So usually before a race I would add what is called saucer wax, as I talked about earlier. It's one of my favorites. They have a type where you can just put it straight onto your board, no heat, no effort, and it just adds that extra oomph of glide for you that day. Don't put too much on, of course, but just a little. But if your board, one reminder is, if your board starts to look like white on the bottom, it means you need wax bad. So I just learned a lot over the years about taking care of it, and about the different types of waxes and how important it is to know what the weather is going to be like in order to not stick to the snow, because it's really not fun when you can't move anywhere. But of course, as you ride your board more, the wax will thin down and you can get some movement going, but most of the time you're going to be pretty sticky if you have a lot of wax on your board or if you have the wrong wax. So today I talked about the history of wax, the types of waxes, as well as some fun facts. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope that you're really interested in this and take to your own beat and want to try out waxing your own board. Of course, make sure that you ask a professional and you learn about everything before you do it, because it's really easy to mess up and really hurt your board. So I hope you have a good day, and it was nice informing you.